Good evening. Good evening. How's everybody doing? Pray all is well. Oh boy, I know it's kind of late. I definitely wasn't expecting to go live this late at night, but when the Holy Spirit speaks, you must respond accordingly. So here I am. I'm gonna give this another few seconds. Let a few people tune in. Let a few of y'all tune in, and then I'm gonna get started. I'm not gonna wait too long to get started because it's already late. I mean, I know it's Saturday, but most people got church in the morning, so I ain't gonna keep y'all up too late. Chris, what's good, brother? What's good? What's good? God bless you. Pastor Camilla, God bless you. God bless you. Glad to see you on. Greetings and blessings to everybody else who's about to show up. I'm gonna give it another maybe 30, 45 seconds, and then we're gonna go ahead and get started. So yeah, as you see on the title, I'm talking about first generational issues. I was initially going to talk about, or specifically talk about, first generational wealth and like the processing of that. But then the Holy Spirit was letting me know that first generational wealth is literally just a piece of what many of us have to deal with as far as like generational first, different experiences. Um, I asked a question, I posted a question earlier, and I was basically taking a poll of basically what the cutoff age is to be considered a millennial. And I was shocked at the age limit, I guess, because most of the people who did comment said something around like the age of 36. And I'm like, man, I don't know. I mean, that's what statistics say. That's what they say, or whatever. I don't know. I'm gonna be 32 a week from today, and I honestly don't feel like I fit into that category for a plethora of reasons. And not just me, but a lot of people in my age bracket don't feel like that. However, it's a few people who are older than me who do feel like they're millennials. So hey, I don't know. I don't know. I still don't feel like I'm in the thick of that whole millennial thing. Nevertheless, though, with my generation and even maybe a generation or two before me, um, we are amongst the generation. I know one generational first that a lot of people in my generation have gone through is a lot of us were the first to go to college. Some of us were the first to graduate high school, but definitely for a lot of us in my immediate family, I was the first person out of my parents and my siblings to attend a 4 year university. I was the first to do a lot of different things. One thing I will go ahead and speak on, and I don't really think we're going to be on here too long tonight, but one thing I did want to speak on is, let me see how I want to say it. Basically, process, the process of getting prepared for first generational happenings. Even with, I'll start with first generational wealth. I was just talking to a brother of mine. He'll probably tune in a second. But I was just talking to him like literally right before I came on, and I was telling him, well, we were basically talking to each other, and we had a similar testimony in that for a large part of our childhood and things like that, and even growing up, we weren't used to really having a whole lot. And I can't really speak for him, but for me, I also went through like pockets of provision or pockets of prosperity. But in a lot of those times, hey Cheyenne, how you doing? God bless you. Kevin, was good? Was good, bro? I'm sure we're probably gonna talk later on. But anyway, I would go through these little pockets of prosperity or whatever, but I would always have like this this gut-wrenching fear that it would inevitably end. Like I would go through this pocket of like financial prosperity, and when I look back on it, the financial prosperity that I call prosperity, it really wasn't much money at all. It was just a lot more than I was used to at one time. But because I was never really taught how to manage it, and I was only taught how to spend it. Well, I didn't really have to be taught how to spend it. It was just I got it. Things cost money. I want things. So here's all my money. Give me the stuff. Um, but then I thought on another level to where look at especially athletes. A lot of athletes in my generation, and even the current generations, they break into the arena, NBA, NFL, MLB, whatever, what have you, and a lot of them they go broke really, really quickly. I'll never forget watching a story with Shaq. Of course, he's a couple generations before me, but he was talking about how when he got in the NBA, he spent his first $1 million in a couple of hours. I think it was really more like 30 minutes, but he spent his first $1 million definitely within the first couple of hours of him getting it. Luckily for him, he had connections with the bank he was with, and they floated him some stuff because they knew through endorsements and other stuff, he had just made it into the league, so he was gonna be able to pay the money back or whatever. But most of us aren't that fortunate, you know. And for a lot of us who grew up like I did, single parent household, low income, Title I schools, et cetera, the drill. For a lot of us, growing up with very little to sometimes nothing in some cases, one of our first instincts when we do get a little bit of something, number one, we get a little bit of something and think that it's a lot, um, and we wind up mismanaging it. And it's crazy how we'll get something and think that it's valuable and all that stuff, and we think that it's just gonna last. I remember reading an article. This was years ago. This lady, she won the lottery, and I think it was for God 60, $70 million. It was a lot. It was a lot of money. But just like many of us, she grew up, you know, dirt poor. I didn't grow up dirt poor, but like a lot of people in her peer group, she grew up dirt poor, grew up with nothing, very little to nothing. And then you go from making below minimum wage, well under $20,000 a year to $60 million, in a matter of a week or so, or however long it took for her to receive the lump sum. And I think even after taxes, she still ended up with at least 30 million. You know, but to go from making 750 an hour to $1 million, that's a life changing thing. But if you look at it, especially in 2018 currency, in the 2018 the current economical standing, what have you, $1 million doesn't really hold nearly as much weight as it used to. In my generation, $1,000 is nothing. If you look at your average apartment, $1,000 is pretty much the going rate. If you want to not live in the hood and you want to live somewhere halfway decent and safe, you're gonna pay at the bare minimum $800 a month in most places. But anyway, going forward, this lady, like I said, ended up with about 30 plus million after taxes. I read through the article. The end of it was she was broke, flat broke in under 10 years. Well under 10 years. Now I actually ironically, I was watching a video on YouTube this morning. Had no idea I was even going to be speaking on this. But this guy, I think he either won the lot. I think he won the lottery or something like that. But it wasn't 60 million. I think he won like $1 million, something like that. million to 5 million, but I think he ended up with like 1.5, maybe 2 million, something like that. And he had a very extensive financial education, so he kept his. One of the wisest things he began saying was he did not change the way he was living at the time. He still drove his Toyota Camry. I think he still worked his same job, still dressed the same, still ate the same, still lived the same. So he broke it down, and this was like really, really, really chilling to me. He was talking to a group of guys in his office, and he asked one of the guys how old he was. I think the guy said he was like 27. So he took that $1 million. He had a white dry erase board or whatever. Took that $1 million, and he broke it down. Put the guy's age, 27 years old, $1 million, and he basically came up with a formula to calculate how long that $1 million would last him based on a monthly amount, a lifestyle based on a monthly amount. And I think he said if you lived on, what did he say, $4,000 a month, $4,000 a month. It was between $2,000 to $4,000 a month. Um, that $1 million would last him, I think, up until he's maybe 52, which is nothing. That's nowhere near even retirement age in most states now. And then that $1 million is gone, and then at 52, what are you going to do? Um, I think initially that was at $4,000 a month. Then he chopped it down to like 2 grand a month, which I'm gonna be honest, in your average household, that's still really, really, really hard to live off of, unless you just want to live, very, very minimally, very sparsely. But to live at even a moderate amount of comfort, that's really, really, really hard to do at 2 grand a month. Unless you're somebody like me, I'm single with no children. I don't need much anyway, so living on 2 grand a month is okay for me. For now anyway. But then again, I just moved to Charlotte and it ain't cheap here. So 2 grand a month here is kind of like me making like 15 in Greensboro, something like that. But going forward, I I know the Holy Spirit told me to just kind of talk about this. And while I'm talking, those who are online, feel free to chime in, comment, maybe some subtopics. As the title says, this is first generational issues. Right now, I'm talking about first generational wealth, and a lot of us really trying to break a lot of cycles that we're beginning to identify in our own lives, but specifically in our own lives in relation to where we come from, who we come from, generationally, what's happened in our families, and for a lot of us, finally choosing to do something different. Um, so, specifically speaking, in that same vein, you know, um, I've been saying this for a couple years now, and I firmly believe, I'm an 80s baby. I was born in 86, and that was a really, really, really crazy time in the world, especially in the US, because the mid 80s, that was in the height of both the AIDS and crack epidemic. A lot of, babies in my generation, they were, a lot of crack babies, AIDS babies, stuff like that. Things at that time had never happened in the history of the world. Um, but then I look at it now, I look at us as a generation now, especially the 80s babies, and even some in the 90s. It's like we're being used. Those of us who have come into the knowledge of this, we're being used by God as change agents in our bloodlines. We're being used as agents of change in our bloodlines and in pretty much all seven mountains of culture. And everywhere we're making our mark, and even in the natural world, you know, I'll be 32 in a few days, and I actually have personal friends of mine who are now doctors, like who have PhDs and THDs and MDivs and other advanced degrees and stuff like that, and I saw a friend of mine today, as a matter of fact. Shout out to Chris Thompson, man. God bless you. I saw that I won't name the school, but he just received a faculty position at a very prestigious university. And that dude, I don't even think he's 30 yet. I think he might be like 27, maybe 26. I don't know, but he's not even 30 years old yet. So I look at where we're at in my generation and a generation or two after me, and we're definitely being used as change agents. God is really beginning to open our eyes to what's been going on in our families and in the world for generations, for hundreds of years, in some situations even longer than that. Um, which is cool, and as cool as that sounds, the flip side of it is it's not enough to simply identify, like, okay, here's a problem, and it's been a problem for 70 years, or it's been a problem for 200 years. It's like, yeah, it's cool to identify the problem, but where the rubber meets the road is the quest to find a solution. That's where the challenge honestly really starts, because finding a problem it's real easy to do this. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. That's the easy part. But then identifying the solution begins the challenge. That's the very beginning of the process. Well, acknowledging that there's a problem is the beginning, but I feel that coming up with a solution begins the work. But then, even if and when you find the solution, then the real work comes when you put your hand to the plow and actually materializing that solution, whatever that solution is, whatever conclusion you've come upon, like actually making that come to life now. And then there are all sorts of sub issues in that, to where it's like, okay, I come up with a solution, I identify the problem, I come up with the solution, and then we start on that solution, and then next thing you know, I hit a snag, and it's like, oh man, I thought that was going to work. Theoretically, it should have worked seamlessly, but now I'm realizing, like, man, I don't know what to do. And then, those of us who are believers, then the devil really uses times like that as prime time to bring in discouragement. Like, yeah, I told you it wasn't gonna work. I don't know why, you was gonna do this, try and be all ambitious and stuff. You might as well just go back to X, Y, and Z. It was good enough for your parents, it was good enough for your grandparents. You just trying to act all brand new and bougie and all that other stuff. And it can be really, really sad and really hard and very, very discouraging. And for some, if you're allowed to get this way, even depressing when you hit, bumps in the road like that. Because it's like, man, because if you think about it, especially in my generations, early to mid 30s, even 40s, we are trailblazers in a lot of ways. We're being used by God as trailblazers, and the journey of a trailblazer is already very, very, very hard, because we're being used to pave the way. We're not walking on a path yet. The only path we have is the blueprint in here, or in here, in our hearts and our spirits. But we're still having to flesh that thing out, and that can be, if you allow it to be, that process can be very disheartening, very discouraging, and especially when you don't quite know where it's going to lead. You have a theory of where you think it should lead, or sometimes you just have a direction and not a destination. That can be even crazier, to where it's like, I don't know where I'm going to end up. I just know I got to get away from here. I got to get and I got a direction. So we're going to see where that ends up. That can be even scarier. But I kind of want to sum it up with this. One of the main things that God has been telling me over probably the past month now, and he's been having me tell a lot of people, is this. If you have a genuine desire to have God's will for your life revealed to you, and you have a desire to actually carry out what that will is, He will not let you miss His will. It's not going to happen. That is something you can stake your life on. Keep in mind, I did not say that you weren't going to mess up. I did not say that you weren't going to miss the mark in some ways, but He's not going to let you miss Him. If His will is what you want, and His will, some people don't agree with this, but those who are believers, this is our reality. We were created for God's purpose. We're God's apparatus. We are here to formulate God's will here on earth, to manifest His kingdom here on earth. And if you have accepted that reality, and if you are endeavoring to carry out the portion of that reality that's assigned to you, God will see to it that you receive all instructions to carry that out, and that you receive all provision to carry out His will. And it's not just you receiving provision just to carry out His will. You're going to prosper as well. And Jesus said, I come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Well, this is the time for the more abundantly. It doesn't come without a price. Yes, Jesus paid the price, the ultimate price, for us to gain access to all of this, but it requires work on our end as well. And again, I really want to end this thing with just encouraging you that giving up right now would be one of the worst decisions of your entire life. Giving up right now figuratively means, or would mean, that you would be literally throwing away, that you would be bagging up all of your dreams and aspirations and all of that stuff and forfeiting it and throwing it away in the trash, burning it up, destroying it, however, by whatever means. Giving up now in so many ways means death, man. I remind people of this all the time. Jesus never said life was going to be easy. He said all things are possible to him that believes. Belief in itself is an action, just like love is an action. Love is a person, but love is an action. God is who He is. He is love, and love is what He does as well. To give up now would be one of the worst decisions you're ever going to make in your life. God never ever said that you wouldn't get tired. God never ever said that you wouldn't get discouraged. God never ever said that you wouldn't get attacked. He said the weapons that will form won't prosper. He didn't say no weapon formed against you will hurt. He didn't say no weapon formed against you will not knock the wind out of you sometimes and cause you to possibly second guess what you're doing. But the prospering that those weapons are blocked from is death. Those weapons formed against you, those fiery darts from the devil, they're meant to take you out. They're not meant to hurt you. They're meant to kill you. So if you got wounds, so what? Say, nurse the wounds, but use those wounds as a testimony. Like, look, yeah, I got some scars, but I came out of this thing. I didn't allow it to stop me. Do not, as simple as this sounds, I really need to speak very plainly to you right now. Do not give up. Don't give up now. Don't give up today. Don't give up tomorrow. God has placed some of us, and honestly, I believe that the ones who are watching right now, what I'm about to say applies to us all. God has brought us to a place to where it's pretty much a place of no return, to where we no longer even see what we left to even go back to it. My brother Q, he posted on Facebook the other day, man, he said, it ain't nothing else to go back to, so you might as well keep going forward. It's like, yes, going forward might be scary, but there's nothing even to look back to. There are those of us who are so much on the cusp of deliverance, on the cusp of a breakthrough. And I'm not talking about the overly church mess that you hear in revivals, the same revival every year, different preacher or whatever. You on the midst of your breakthrough, slap 10 people and say you coming in the greater. I ain't talking about none of that stuff, yo. I'm talking about a new life for real. Out here where we at. In the marketplace, at work, at school. Like that's where we're supposed to use this stuff at anyway. The stuff that you're supposed to learn in church, you're supposed to use it out here. Okay? But anyway, that I'm not even gonna go because that's gonna be a whole nother rant or whatever, and that's not even what this video is about. Listen, God has a monumental plan for your life. But that plan cannot be carried out if you whimper and cower at every obstacle. That plan cannot be carried out if you just fold. Every time you get hit with a dart, if you just give up and say this is too hard, it's like the first taste of hard or challenge you get, it's like you just don't want to do it. With this millennial generation, I guess I'll lump myself in that generation, for the sake of this conversation. Us millennials, man, it's like the generations before us, the most they think about us, they call us weak. They call us overly sensitive. They call us scared. They call us dumb, lacking common sense. The list goes on and on. In some ways, I can agree with a lot of that. But in other ways, I can also say, but you were the ones who raised us. You got all of this dignity and common sense and all this other stuff, but yet you ridicule and damn and condemn the ones that you raised. But anyway, again, this conversation, as you can see, can go in many different directions, but I'm going to kind of try and keep it streamlined unless the Holy Spirit says otherwise. But that plan that God has for you, that dream that the Lord placed in you, it's not going to be fulfilled by cowering and whimpering and folding every time you get hit with some opposition. I have a lot of respect for, I follow a lot of bodybuilders and fitness people on YouTube. One of them is this personality's dude by the name of CT Fletcher and Mike Rashid. I get a lot of inspiration from those guys and bodybuilders in general because they literally have to do what most people won't, but then they wind up looking like most people can't because they did what most people won't. They've had to sacrifice, instead of eating whatever they wanted, they had to stick to that diet. Instead of just sitting on the couch or sleeping in later, they had to get up at the same time every morning, sometimes 2-3 times a day, to put that work in. But then when they're out in public, and like CT Fletcher would say, is they split in the sidewalk because they so cut and muscular and built and all that other stuff, and people marvel and admire them. They're like, wow, I just want to be just like you. And it's like the ones who really put in that work just kind of laugh. It's like, no, you don't. You want to come with me right now? When I leave this expo, I got to go meal prep for the next week, all tonight. Is that what you really want to do? Or you just want the finished results? Listen, one of the biggest deficits, one of the biggest issues, one of the biggest epidemics in the millennial generation is the fact that we are completely impatient. We fear process like it's cancer, like it's AIDS. We fear process like it's the worst thing. We fear process like it's death. One of the fruit of the Spirit is long suffering. Love is patient. We don't we don't have that. A lot of us. I'm not talking about individuals or exceptions to the rule. I'm talking to us as a generation right now. We don't have a lot of that. We fear process like it's death itself. But that's just the contrary. If we don't face and endure the process, then death is what we have to look forward to. Not just always physically, but in every other way. And then inevitably, yeah, physically too. Endure hardness as a good soldier. Put your hand to the plow. Don't look up until you finish. Yes, it's hard. It's supposed to be. Look at diamonds, look at gold, all these other precious stones. They don't start out looking like that. Look at gold. It's full of dross and impurities and all this stuff. And even when you put it in the furnace, that's not a one-time thing. You don't just dip it in there and take it out, and then it's this shiny, valuable piece of gold. You got to do that thing over and over again. You put it in there, let it burn. Take it out. You cool it off. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of like the eye in the middle of the storm. God ain't going to just keep the heat on you the whole time. He's going to come out, let you regroup, cool off a little bit, harden back up, and then put you back in there over and over and over again. That diamond, for a lot of us, we're diamonds. We represent lumps of coal to other people to where they just write us off over and over and over again. They don't believe in us. They don't see value in us. And a lot of times, if we continue to accept what other people think, then we begin to accept it too and forget what's inside, what's been placed inside of there. And a lot of times it's not until that diamond, well, in all times, it's not until that diamond goes through the process of being cut over and over and over and over again that diamond shines through. You don't just go get the shiny stuff right away. The process is inevitable. It's unavoidable if perfection is what you want. And if that's not what you want, then you're not going to receive the process. You're not going to receive the reward of the process. You're not going to receive the fruit of the process. If you don't endure the process, if you don't start out by facing the process and allowing the process to completely process you, the Bible says to let patience have her perfect work. That perfect work, we don't get to say, if we yield to God, we don't get to say when it's enough. That's the Most High's job. We don't get to say, okay, I don't feel like it today, but I still want to fulfill your will, God. We don't get to say that. If we've said yes to God, then we say no to ourselves by default. So that's the way I was led to end it. Face this process, endure the process, and do not abort. Now is not the time for it. It's never been time to abort, but especially not now. There's too many of us that are way too close. You are way too close to abort. And if you abort now, you're about to see a wave of people pass by you at light speed. And you won't have anyone to blame but yourself. Ask God for patience, peace, provision, whatever it is that you need to keep going. It's at your fingertips. It is available. Ask the Lord to reveal that to you and to give it to you. Fast, turn down your plate, pray, do whatever it is that you need to do. It's not always just about cutting people off and keeping your circle small. Okay, what if you've done that and then what you're still doing still ain't working? Then that means there's something else that's required. Do whatever it is that must be done so that you can receive what is assigned to you. I don't have that answer. That's between you and the Lord. So until next time, receive that, share this with whoever you feel needs it. God bless you. Shalom. Good night.